Bobby Ray Inman, who is director of the CIA, he's basically admitting that, we have UFOs in our possession.
I really want to push back against the threat narrative and the fear that it generates. The abduction phenomenon is at the center of all of this.
Do you think DARPA has ever experimented with human-animal hybrids or human-alien hybrids? Do you ever wonder if some of our, things implemented in our kind of medical industry or food industry are actually derived from sort of, alien?
If you read Corso's book
Mm-hmm.
and you read the history of DARPA, there is some really interesting...
It always makes me wonder how this UFO program operates or works. Because, I think you'd be the best recruit for something like that. No,
Dude,
seriously.
I am a screw up, man.
No, you're into the topic. You have this interdisciplinary knowledge, and then, yeah, it's just so weird. I do think SAIC had something to do with this. Bobby Ray Inman, who is director of the CIA, and I think number 2 at NSA, a rare person to be at the top of both organizations. And, he has this call with Bob Oxler, this, UFO researcher, and he's basically admitting that, we have UFOs in our possession.
Do you anticipate that any of the recovered vehicles would ever become available for technological research outside of the military circles?
Again, I honestly don't know. 10 years ago, the answer would have been no.
Yeah.
Whether as time has evolved, they're beginning to become more open on it, is a possibility.
A short time later, Bob Exler received this call.
Mr. Exler, this is Tom King in Admiral Inman's office. Yes, you would be breaching confidence and/or violation of the secrecy laws in discussing his involvement in any matter.
And so it's,
Ben Rich said same thing.
Ben Rich did say the same thing.
We have the
Skunk Works.
technology, quote, we have the technology to take ET home.
Do you think that was bluster or propaganda, or do you think he really...
Well, so again, putting my behavioral scientist cap on, ego's a powerful factor, right, in all of us. And I have to deal with that myself, right, all the time. And so secrets bolster your ego. If I am told, I'm going to tell you something, but you can't tell Jesse, makes me feel important, right? So imagine a 30-year career as a senior intelligence officer. You rise up through the ranks, right? And you get to be a GS-15, and you feel super special. Like, I'm the only guy on the planet that knows all this stuff. And your ego is just ballooned up. And what you got to do is you got to pop the balloon every now and then. And if you're surrounded by the right people that will pop that for you, not burst it, just puncture it and let a little air out sometime, and then maybe reinflate it back and forth. But without that counterbalance, it can really lead you into some inaccurate assumptions. And that has certainly happened to me on more than one occasion. So I bring this into the conversation in the context of this threat narrative.
Yeah.
And I really want to push back against the threat narrative and the fear that it generates.
Yeah. This stuff's it's not a threat. I mean, unless there's some specific thing that we're doing now that threatens them, that is wholesale, orders of magnitude worse than the creation of nukes, I don't see how it is a threat.
Well, so my underlying thesis for what I present in the alien abduction amnesty knot is that the abduction phenomenon is at the center of all of this. And so I want to bow down yet again to all of my heroic brothers and sisters in the intelligence community and thank them for their pessimistic point of view. They are inherently pessimistic, and they have to be. Their whole career is based on briefing a commander with the worst possible case. So I want to counterbalance that and present a statistically based argument that 99% of the violent crime that is committed on this planet, not just the United States, globally, is committed by 1% of the population. So if you extrapolate from there, which is the only thing we can do unless somebody starts divulging secrets and telling us otherwise, 99% of them are friendly, and there's only 1% that might be doing bad stuff to us.
Sure.
Now, the middle ground is the scientists, right? The veterinarians who come in and pluck us out of our bed, play with us, take me off my mountain bike, take me out of my bed after using the hurricane over my house as a cover to land, whatever they do.
Yeah.
But there's compassion there because they remove our memories so that we can get on with our lives. If I could remove my Labrador Retriever's memory of every time I brought him to the vet, I would do it in a heartbeat.
Have you ever seen the movie The Shape of Water?
Oh, yeah.
So that's a great movie. Guillermo del Toro talks about sort of mid-century experiments of human-animal hybridization. And I have met somebody who's former DARPA. He said he could tell me this because it didn't end. This project that he was working on never got approved, went through, but it was a submission that he made. And it was based on the work of this guy, Richard Goldschmidt, who is an alternative to Darwin, in the early 20th century, is this German guy. And it was hopeful monsters. So it was like you had like a tiger and a lion mate or something. Then you get a liger, and in the liger's case, it dies off or whatever. But like every once in a while, you get these sort of hybrids that fulfill this specific ecological niche that lives on, and that's how you get these sort of punctuated equilibria, rapid speciation, in the phylogenetic tree. That's how you get these jumps in evolution, which aren't really well explained in the pure Darwinian theory. And I found that fascinating. And I guess that never, made it across the line. Do you think DARPA has ever experimented with human animal hybrids or human alien hybrids?
I've never been read in on anything, even a whisper of any of that. But that is consistent with DARPA's mission to do that type of research to ensure technological surprise for our country over our adversaries.
Do you know who?
So I don't know what I don't know.
Have you ever heard the name Detlev Bronk by any chance?
Yeah.
So this guy was in charge of quote unquote alien autopsies back in the day, but then he went on to run the Rockefeller Foundation, and he was president of Johns Hopkins as well. He was doing all sorts of medical stuff. And so do you ever wonder if some of our, things implemented in our kind of medical industry or food industry are actually derived from sort of, alien stuff?
2-word answer?
Yeah.
Ontological relief.
Do you think that Philip Corsa's narrative is correct, where like you have these metamaterials, basically the sort of golden age of material science of the late 50s was a result of the Roswell materials being transferred to Wright Pad, and then he was actually in charge of doling it out to kind of civil side commercial use cases?
So that book was fascinating, and I think I purchased it either, I don't know if it was at the same time. No, I think it was after. I think I bought it when I was at SOCOM. So so speaking of books, before I bought Corso's book, I bought Whitley Strieber's book, Community, which is another anomalous behavior factor. It's not as strong as the mountain bike or the bruises on the arm, but it is an anomalous one, independently corroborated, because my daughter and I were meeting my wife and my older daughter. This is right around the same time as the mountain bike thing. We're cutting through the mall, and we go through at Barnes & Noble. And we're late, and so we're hustling along, and I happen to glance as we're cutting through, and I freeze in my tracks, like solid frozen. And I am paralyzed with fear. And the hairs, here it goes again. The hair's standing up on my arms. And I'm staring over at the wall to my right, and it's Whitley Strieber's book. It's the face, the communion face. And I froze in my tracks, and the next thing I know, my daughter is tugging on my hand. And unbeknownst to me, she had continued walking through the bookstore, gone out to the mall, wondered where the hell I was, and came back and grabbed me. She's like, "Dad, come on, we're going to be late." And so I let her drag me out of the store, essentially, and we go back. And so I make some excuse to my wife. I think they were buying school stuff, school clothes or whatever. So I came straight back to that bookstore and I bought the book, and I immediately ripped the cover off and threw it in the trash before I walked out of the door. And it was, again, that weird anomalous behavior. And so I think it was a few years after that.
It triggered you in some way.
That I bought Corso's book.
Mm.
Right? And so, and then at one point, we had a St. Patrick's Day party at DARPA at our office. It was obviously 17 March. I think it was 17 March, 2001. My wife and I had just separated, preparing for a divorce that she had asked for. And it was we had been on the rocks for a while. I had cheated on her earlier in my relationship. I wasn't a good husband, wasn't a good dad. I was just testosterone-filled warrior, mentality, blah, blah, blah. I've come around to sort of try to forgive myself for that. But in any case, we were separated, and so I ended up staying the night instead of going home. She had moved in a basement. I ended up getting hammered at this St. Patrick's Day party. I had put on my man makeup, my camouflage green paint, right? And put on my fatigues, my jungle uniform to play around. And some people thought it was funny. Some people thought, whatever, dude. And so I ended up in this conference room with a couple other scientists who weren't program managers. They were on the support staff, way smarter than me by any stretch of the imagination. And I had this book in this conference room, and it was Corso's book. And they're like, "You don't believe that, do you?" And I was like, "Well, wait a minute." So now I'm kind of attached. So we're gonna have a little exchange here. And I built up the case that DARPA was what Corso's original section under General Trudeau became. That DARPA ended up as the conduit to break up all the component technologies and distribute them throughout the wonderful free enterprise, free market economy of the democratic United States
That's
of America.
fascinating, because DARPA was founded around, 57, 58 or something?
1958. It was right after, it was allegedly the response to Sputnik.
Oh, but you're saying maybe it was also a response to this army guy, Corso,
All I'm
being
saying,
given some anomalous material to dole out.
if you read Corso's book
Mm-hmm.
and you read the history of DARPA, there is some really interesting
Any other reasons to
correlations.
believe that? Any other correlations you can talk about?